So how many chickens do you need for your homestead? That's what we want to talk about in this video.
How many chickens do you need?
It's winter time, it's time to order chickens. We're about to order our chickens, and I wanted to talk to you about how we decide how many we're gonna get and maybe give you some ideas of how you can, what you would want to order for your flock.
Oh, I gotta get a roaster to put up here for tomorrow.
What you doing?
Hi, babe.
Hi.
Gonna get started making some breakfast.
How do you poach eggs?
So the way I poach eggs, I crack an egg into a pot of boiling water, turn off the heat, 2 minutes on the timer, done. When
Perfect.
it beeps, I take it out.
Perfect every time. Perfect poach eggs. That's how you do it. There's two different categories of chickens that you're going to want to order for your homestead or your farm. There's egg layers and then there's meat chickens. In this video we're going to focus on just egg layers, and in a follow-up video we'll talk about meat birds. So I'm making a video for today about
Should have guessed.
so I'm making this video. I have this friend. How many eggs do we go through?
A day or a week?
What do we go through a day?
Probably close to half a dozen eggs a day.
Half a dozen?
Most days.
You want to get some egg layers on the homestead. How many do you need? It all depends on what your goals are. If you just want a couple pet chickens, you can get 3 chickens. That's plenty for themselves. They'll have a little community, and you can enjoy having pet chickens. But 3 chickens is not going to be enough to feed a family. How many chickens is going to be enough to feed a family? So we're a big family. You do a lot of, you make homemade mayo with eggs. What are some other things you do?
Breads, cakes, drinks,
Whiskey sours.
puddings.
We're probably on the heavy side of egg usage. Because we have our own chickens, we're going through about 3.5 dozen. I read that the average American household, the average American eats 5 eggs a day. That means over the course of a year, the average American will eat 250 eggs. If you were to Google, like I did, how many eggs a chicken lays per year, you're gonna get an average figure of about 265. That average figure is not going to reflect what your actual flock is going to lay. You see, that number is coming from factory producers, and they're getting a lot more eggs than you'll probably get in your backyard. We buy often from McMurray Hatchery, and their Rhode Island Reds, which are a really good producing chicken, average about 200 to 250 eggs per year. No eggs yet today. You're more likely to get about 200 to 225 probably from your chickens. So if the average American eats 250 eggs per year and your chicken is laying 200 to 250, can you get 1 chicken per person in your family? Not really, that's cutting it too close. If you don't want to ever buy eggs again, if you want to have enough chickens, you should have more chickens than family members. So for the average family of 4, who's going to go through 1,000 eggs a year, plus whatever extra you're going to use up in maybe cooking and baking. So let's say somewhere between 1,000 and maybe 1,500 eggs in the year, you're going to want at least 5 to 7 chickens. Should they factor in 2 dozen per week?
Maybe 3 for baking.
A family of 4?
Yeah.
If they're heavy
big.
users.
Yeah, if they're big bakers.
Okay, so if you're a heavy user.
Heavy egg user.
So if your goal is just to feed your family enough eggs so that you don't have to buy any eggs, and you have a family of 4 and you're all eating eggs, probably somewhere between 5 to 7 chickens will be just enough chickens for a backyard flock. What you got there?
A poster egg. Daddy, can I count a jam or something?
You're so cute.
Oh yeah, I know.
You can see we have a nice small coop here, a little coop like this, even something a little bit smaller. The biggest limiting factor of a coop is your roost. How much linear feet do you have on your roost? If you have 1 foot per chicken and you have a roost that's 8 feet long, you could have 8 chickens. If you have a roost that's 3 feet long, you're gonna want 3 or less. So that's the great way to tell how many chickens you want for your family. We are big egg users in our family, so we like to have, right now we have a flock of about 10. Now before you go ordering your chickens for the year, there's something you need to remember. Chickens lay more eggs during the summertime than they do in the wintertime. If you get 5 to 7 chickens, during the summertime, you're gonna have probably more eggs than you know what to do with. But then winter's gonna come. And when winter comes, production's gonna slow. And here's where things get a little tricky. Let's say during the summertime, you were getting more eggs than you could possibly want. Now you open up a little roadside stand. You think, oh, these eggs are delicious, people want them, I can make a few bucks off of them. Suddenly people start coming and leaving $5 bills in your cooler, and you're like, this is great. People get hooked on your eggs, they're really grateful that you're selling farm fresh eggs. Then December comes, and now your chickens aren't laying as much. Now you hardly have enough eggs for your own family, let alone your customers. Now you're losing your customers because they show up and there's no more eggs and they're frustrated at you. That's where things get a little tricky. So if your goal is just to feed your family, well, 5 to 7 should do it. But if your goal is to make a little bit of money, how many eggs do you need? We'll find out in the next video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. We're gonna talk about how many egg-laying chickens you should buy if you wanna make money. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video, which will be out tomorrow, because we do a daily video here at Homesteady every day, 6 a.m., new farm video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Every day but Sunday. I take Sunday off. I work for myself, right? I should be able to take a day off.
Cracking.
I'm gonna use all this.
Are you using the ones that
You'll never see me in another
Mommy,
video
those are
again.
the